Humans and animals and plants are all affected by the temperature, the sunlight and water. In cases when you do have an extreme drop in temperature or sunlight during winter, what happens is to animals is that they go into hibernation and plants go into a dormant state. What happens when you do get a plant going into a dormant state is that it lowers its metabolism in order to conserve energy for its own survival. It goes into survival mode. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Alice. Today we're going to have a look at dormancy and try to understand it. So what happens to indoor plants and outdoor plants is as the day gets shorter and also the temperature starts cooling down, it sends a signal to itself is that basically winter is round the corner, and this automatically starts the dormancy process. Then what happens is the plant starts slowing its growth down in a way to conserve energy. During spring and summer, these are the active months for any plant, shrubs or trees. Now what happens is that during this time is that the plant is exchanging its carbon monoxide, its water, its inorganic salts, and using that and converting it into carbohydrates. At the end of the season, as you're getting into fall, the reverse starts happening. Is instead of the plant actually using all these carbohydrates, it actually takes it straight down to its roots, where it starts storing all these nutrients for the winter month. Also, another change we see in autumn is also the leaves start losing its chlorophyll. So instead of being green, what happens is that you get those lovely autumn colors of red, orange and yellow leaves. And as the plant is losing this chlorophyll, these leaves actually do drop off in the end. Now, when these leaves do drop off, it's not as if the plant is dying or the shrub is dying. What is happening is that the roots are still surviving. They're thriving because all the nutrients have been put into the roots to support the plant during winter. It's actually a survival mechanism for all these plants in the northern hemisphere. If winter came and it was still active, what would happen is you would get freezing of the branches, you would get freezing of the leaves, you will get freezing of the trunk, and in the end it causes damage to the shrubs and the trees and your lovely little plants. So just before the first frost, you should already be starting to think about which plants you want to start storing over winter storage in order to keep it going. If you do have vulnerable plants that won't survive the winter outdoors, it's time to bring them into your house. The second thing is that if you did have plants that had rhizomes or tubers, because they're very delicate if you do get a freezing temperature, it's time to bring them and start your overwinter preparation, which is to dig it up from the soil, clean the rhizome or the tubers, and then start preparing, putting them into cartons and insulating them with either vermiculite, very little vermiculite or peat moss, and then storing this in your garage or your basement. For the other plants that you do have, for example, the salvias in your garden or the colas plant in your garden, what you could do is actually start making your cuttings, and you can either do a water propagation or a soil propagation and keep it in a warm place like the kitchen where you get indirect light. And though it is the cold season where propagation will take longer and it's slower, basically because of the light, you will in the end have a really good multitude of those plants that you've propagated. And as I mentioned, is that basically when you do put your plants in overwinter storage in your basement or in your garage, usually about 5 degrees is good for the plant, 5 to 10 degrees Celsius. But what happens is make sure that the garage or the basement is frost free. Second thing, it's dark because the plant is not growing, so it doesn't need to produce chlorophyll. And then also is that there is good circulation, because it's important that when you do take these plants into storage, that there's not so much moisture in the air that will cause an infection like fungal infection or rotting. Now, for shrubs that you don't feel that it needs to really be uprooted, because basically you don't have to dig your whole garden, but shrubs and baby trees, all you do is make sure it's insulated. And a lot of people, either you get a polythene and surround your plant, or a hessian cloth, and then just stuff it with hay. This is a way of actually keeping the heat and conserving it. Or you could actually mulch the roots of your plant all around to keep the roots warm. I have to point out one thing, because also indoor plants go into a state of dormancy, and usually you will recognize that your plant has stopped growing, or it is not producing new leaves, or the old leaves are dropping, or it could be that the plant is not taking up so much water. This could be a state of dormancy, so you have to be patient and also water it minimum. It just needs what it needs, but in a way is that once they do go into dormancy, you don't see any growth, but always remember that the root is still active. As long as the roots of your indoor plant is healthy, the plant is still working. Now, once you do put your plants into storage, do check it at least once a month. You know, just open it up, make sure that you know what is happening, because you may get a bit of the plant that has gone into mold or is started getting all soft and soggy. So once you do check, you can snip those bits out. Or if it is, you do get some sort of fungal infection, remove it and clean it with some fungicide, and then you return it back. And then spring comes, and then you suddenly look at your plants and you'll see those little buds sort of sprouting out. Now, my message to you, don't be too enthusiastic of as soon as it's warmer and spring has come, that you rush out and bring your plants, because there are incidences where suddenly in the middle of spring you get snow hitting you, and again we want to protect the plants, because once you do get a freeze attack, the leaves are going to be frozen, the water is going to freeze inside the leaves, the stem and the root, and all that hard work, you would have damaged your plant. So once spring does come, slowly introduce, do take your plant and slowly introduce it to sunlight. Start off with indirect sunlight and then move it gradually until it gets what the plant wants, whether it's full sun or semi-shade. But just slowly introduce it back to your garden. Give it a really good drench of water, and then you can at this point add a bit of diluted fertilizer so as in order to encourage more foliage growth. So fellow gardeners, I hope I've tried to explain to you about overwinter storage, what to do with your plants, and all the success we're in at this point is when you should start actually preparing your plants. And good luck with them, treat them with love, and I'm sure they will survive. So don't forget to like and share and press that notification, and do subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we do have an Instagram account. Have a look through it. I'm always posting every week. And if there's any questions, I do answer. And also, yeah, send me your comments. I love receiving your comments. So all the best and good luck with your overwinter storage, and I hope I've given you enough. Thank you. Bye.